The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, cold and merciless. Stars flickered in distant constellations, distant and silent, like the watchful eyes of worlds long forgotten. And then a faint signal appeared. It was weak, erratic, human. Elyra Vex, commander of the Alarian star vessel Silent Hawk, froze where she stood. Her ship was dying, systems failing one by one. Biocrystals cracked, warning lights flickered in panic. She had no one left to help, no allies within light years. And now, this small, battered human ship approached, a salvager by the looks of it. Impossible, she whispered. Humans can't survive here, let alone repair a ship like mine. The signal pulsed steadily, unwavering, almost as if it were alive. Moments later, a flickering screen came to life. A human male appeared, mid-30s, messy, confident, oil stains on his jacket. His eyes sparkled with reckless curiosity. Well, he said casually, looks like you've got yourself in trouble. Lucky for you, I fix things other people give up on. Elyra stared. Every instinct, every ounce of pride told her to reject him, to wait for Alarian rescue that would never come. Yet here he was, stepping forward with tools in hand, completely unafraid. Something stirred deep within her, a spark she hadn't felt in centuries. Humanity had just made its mark on the galaxy. Jack Kane's ship, a battered cargo-class vessel, docked with a crippled Silent Hawk. The airlock hissed open. Elyra watched silently as Jack moved through the corridors. His hands touched every exposed wire, every fractured biocrystal vein with a kind of reckless confidence that only humans seem to have. He attached a small, makeshift stabilizer. The lights flickered, groaned, and then steadied. The engines hummed a deep, steady rhythm. The ship exhaled a sigh of relief. Elyra blinked. You repaired it. Jack wiped his hands on his jacket. Tempo fix. But it'll hold. For now. For the first time, Elyra felt something she hadn't allowed herself in centuries. Awe. She had faced the deadliest of cosmic storms, wars that spanned light years, and yet nothing compared to the shock of witnessing a human repair what her kind considered impossible. As the Silent Hawk prepared for a short jump, Elyra cautiously stepped closer. You are reckless and dangerous, she said. Jack shrugged. Maybe, but I fix things no one else will. Elyra considered him carefully. Humans were dismissed by the galaxy as primitive, yet here he was challenging everything she knew about engineering, life, and survival. I owe you a reward, she said, her voice steady but hesitant. Jack smiled faintly. Didn't do it for that. The ship shuddered gently as it engaged warp stabilizers, and Elyra realized, perhaps for the first time, that the universe had shifted. One human, with nothing but tools, intuition, and stubbornness, had turned the impossible into reality. And she knew, deep down, this encounter was only the beginning of something far greater than either of them could yet imagine. They set course for Alari's Prime, the heart of the Alarian Star Union. Along the way, Elyra found herself observing Jack in quiet fascination. He improvised, adjusted, and predicted failures before they happened, not with superior technology, but with intuition. What are you doing differently? She asked cautiously. Jack looked up, wiping sweat and oil from his brow. Nothing magical. I just listen. To the machines. To the wires. To the hum of it all. Sometimes that's enough. Elyra allowed herself a small nod, curiosity and admiration warring with her disciplined Alarian training. For the first time in her life, she understood the unpredictability and brilliance of humanity. As the stars streaked past during the warp jump, Elyra and Jack moved silently through the corridors. One repaired, one observed. Yet in the quiet, a bond began to form. One born not of friendship, but of survival, trust, and a mutual understanding that humans, underestimated by the galaxy, could do what no one else dared. And somewhere deep within her, Elyra realized that when they reached Alarian's prime, the galaxy itself would never look at humanity the same way again. When Elyra and Jack exited warp, the golden glow of Alarian's prime stretched before them. The floating city rings and crystal towers shimmered as if an ancient story had come alive. Jack let go of the spaceship controls and simply stared, a mix of awe and a small smile on his face. "Wow, this place is something else," he said, his voice carrying that casual confidence he always had. Elyra covered her eyes briefly and checked the ship's systems. "Not just the city, every single component here is far beyond our engineering. For a human like you, it's risky." Jack just raised his hands. "I only fix things nobody else dares to touch." When they stepped out of the ship, the Alarian High Council awaited them. 12 elders, floating lightly in midair, scrutinized Jack like they were seeing a rare and alien species for the first time. Elyra introduced him. "This is Jack Kane, a human. He repaired my ship, something even our best engineers deemed impossible." One elder spoke softly. "This human, who is he? Why repair what we abandoned?" Jack smiled faintly and replied, "Because broken things deserve fixing, and everyone deserves a chance to get home." Elyra watched as a ripple of surprise and murmurs spread across the council. Everyone realized this human was unlike any other species they had seen, unpredictable, daring, and perhaps a future game changer. Finally, the eldest counselor spoke. "Jack Kane, for your courage and skill, we grant you a reward. Open access to every Alarian shipyard, every derelict vessel, and every salvage site in our space." Jack shook his head gently. "I don't want money. I just want to learn." A hush fell over the council, and whispers soon began to circulate across the galaxy. Rival empires and alien races were secretly listening. A human, once underestimated, was now on a level that made everyone take notice. Elyra looked at Jack, realizing the bond forming between them was more than just ship repair. It was a symbol of humanity's potential. Jack checked the ship's systems once more, and together, they prepared to embark on a journey that would show the galaxy just what humans were capable of, shocking friend and foe alike. As Jack and Elyra prepared the Silent Hawk for its next mission, word of the human who repaired an Alarian flagship had already begun to ripple across the galaxy. Requests, whispers, and outright astonishment came from alien commanders, some curious, some nervous. Jack adjusted the ship's stabilizer, glancing at Elyra. "Looks like the galaxy doesn't know what to do with humans yet." Elyra smiled faintly. "They will soon." Their first official task came sooner than expected. A research vessel from a neighboring system had gone dark near a collapsing star cluster. The distress beacon was faint, almost lost in the static of cosmic radiation. Most species had already deemed it unreachable. But not Jack. "We're going," he said simply. "Broken ships are my specialty." Elyra hesitated. "The gravitational anomalies there. You might not survive." Jack grinned, tightening a wrench in his hand. "Then it'll be a proper adventure." The jump through the star cluster was tense. Stars twisted around them, energy surges rattling the hull, alarms screaming. Jack worked with methodical calm, bypassing failing shields and stabilizing the engines with scraps of tech that seemed utterly primitive by Alarian standards. Yet somehow it worked. The derelict research vessel floated like a ghost in the cluster, systems fried, hull torn in jagged lines. Elyra's eyes widened. "Even I didn't think anyone could make it through this." Jack climbed aboard with Elyra at his side. Tools, wires, and instinct moved faster than thought. Every human improvisation, every bold move brought life back to the dying ship. Slowly, lights blinked on, engines hummed a weak rhythm, and the research vessel exhaled as if awakening from a long nightmare. Alien crew members, rescued and trembling, stared at Jack in disbelief. "Oh, what are you?" one of them whispered. Jack shrugged. "Just a human. I fix things that others leave behind." Word of the rescue spread across the cluster, faster than any official communication. Aliens who had once mocked humans now began to reconsider. A species underestimated for centuries was proving indispensable in the most impossible situations. Back aboard the Silent Hawk, Elyra looked at Jack with something approaching admiration. "You've changed more than one ship today." Jack leaned back, tired but smiling. "Not me. Humans. One of us just happens to have stubborn hands." As they plotted a course back to Alarian Prime, Elyra realized that the galaxy had shifted. For the first time, she saw humanity not as primitive, not as fragile, but as a force, clever, daring, and unpredictable. And somewhere deep in her heart, she knew that every empire, every advanced race, would soon feel the tremors of this revelation. Humans weren't just surviving. They were shaping the future, and Jack Kane was leading the charge. The stars outside the viewport stretched like rivers of light as the Silent Hawk jumped back toward Alarian Prime. But this time, the galaxy felt different. Every system they passed, every fleet that scanned their signature, carried whispers of a human who did the impossible. Elyra stood at the observation deck, watching Jack work on the ship's systems with his usual casual precision. She had spent centuries among the galaxy's most brilliant minds, yet none had approached the daring, instinctive genius of humanity. "Do you ever sleep?" she asked quietly. Jack looked up, smirked, and shook his head. "Sleep is for when nothing is broken. Everything's broken somewhere in the galaxy." They entered orbit above Alarian Prime, and the High Council had gathered once more. This time, the atmosphere was charged, not with ceremony, but with awe. Reports of Jack's missions, the rescued research vessel, and his uncanny ability to repair what no one else could have reached them within hours. The eldest counselor floated forward, his expression solemn. "Jack Kane, human, you have done what no other species dared. You have not only repaired ships, but healed the pride and failures of entire fleets." Jack shrugged, almost embarrassed. "I just fix things that are broken. That's all, not all." Elyra interjected. "You have reminded the galaxy that human ingenuity is not to be underestimated. They adapt, they survive, and they excel." A hum of acknowledgement swept through the council. Flags, signals, and delegates from neighboring systems all watched. For the first time in recorded history, a single human had earned not just gratitude, but respect and influence across multiple empires. Jack's gaze moved to Elyra. "So what now?" Elyra's silver eyes reflected the light of the city below. "Now, humanity takes its place among the stars, not as servants, not as observers, but as equals, and perhaps, in time, as leaders in ways we cannot yet imagine." Jack smiled faintly, a rare moment of quiet triumph. "Good. Let's see how far we can push broken things next." The Silent Hawk powered up, engines humming with renewed life. Outside, stars streaked past, as if cheering for a species once dismissed as primitive. And for the first time, the galaxy understood. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were force, unpredictable, daring, unstoppable. And it all began with one human, one ship, and one act of stubborn courage. The stars stretched endlessly ahead. Humanity's journey had only just begun. Stars stretched endlessly outside the viewport, and the silent talk hummed with the quiet rhythm of a ship that had already proven impossible could be made possible. Elyra watched Jack adjust the stabilizers again, his hands moving with instinctive precision. "You really never stop, do you?" she asked quietly. Jack shrugged, smirking. "There's always something to fix. Always a challenge waiting somewhere." Elyra nodded, her thoughts drifting. Humanity had begun to carve its mark across the galaxy. The rescue, the council, the open access, all of it was just the beginning. She could see it now. Humans weren't just clever. They were unpredictable, daring, unstoppable. Suddenly, the communication panel flickered. A series of alerts scrolled across the screen. Another distress signal, this time from a mining fleet trapped near a dying star. Every Alarian crew had refused. They said it was too dangerous, the energy fluctuations too unstable. Jack's eyes lit up. "This one's mine," he said casually. "Broken ships, trapped crews, sounds like a fun problem." Elyra hesitated. "The gravitational flux, you could lose your ship. Even you might not survive." Jack smiled faintly. "Then it'll be a proper adventure. You coming?" She took a deep breath and nodded. "Of course. Someone has to make sure your recklessness doesn't get us all killed." The jump was tense. Stars twisted around them, as if the universe itself was testing Jack's skills. Alarms screamed, the hull groaned, and energy surges rattled the ship. But every time, Jack's human intuition, his stubborn hands, and quick thinking saved them. Elyra couldn't stop watching in amazement. Finally, they reached the mining fleet. Ships were torn, energy cores unstable, and crews terrified. Elyra turned to Jack. "Even I didn't think anyone could reach this place." Jack just nodded, rolling up his sleeves. "Let's fix them." Tools, wires, and improvisation moved faster than anyone could follow. Slowly, lights flickered on, engines hummed, and one by one, the trapped ship stabilized. Crew members, exhausted and terrified, stared in disbelief. Who are you?" one of them whispered. Jack grinned. "Just a human. I fix things other species leave behind." Elyra watched him, a sense of awe settling in. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were reshaping the galaxy. Every mission, every repaired ship, every act of courage was a statement. Humans were not to be underestimated. When the last ship finally powered up, Jack leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. "That's another problem solved." Elyra's eyes softened as she looked at him. "And that's why the galaxy will never be the same again." The stars outside stretched on endlessly, but for the first time, Elyra felt certain. Wherever humans went, they would leave a mark no one could ignore. The repaired mining fleet slowly followed the Silent Hawk back towards safe space, and Elyra finally allowed herself a moment to relax. But Jack was already scanning star maps, plotting their next jump. "Another signal," he said without looking up. "This one's from a research outpost near the Nebula of Whispers. Systems failing, no one answering. Typical disaster waiting to happen." Elyra raised an eyebrow. "You don't rest, do you?" Jack chuckled. "Rest is for when there's nothing to fix. And there's always something." The jump into the nebula was unlike anything Elyra had ever witnessed. Colors she didn't know existed swirled around them, and the ship's sensors struggled to keep up with the chaotic energy flows. Alarian protocols said it was impossible to navigate, but Jack's intuition, the same stubborn, human way of sensing patterns others ignored, guided them through safely. Elyra watched in awe as he manually rerouted failing cores, stabilized the shields, and recalibrated engines mid-jump, all in real time. "This human," she thought to herself, "is changing everything I know about engineering, survival, and courage." Finally, they reached the outpost. Smoke and sparks erupted from the structure, but no crew had been lost yet. Jack jumped into action immediately, bypassing damage systems and rewiring controls with improvised tools that shouldn't have worked, but did. Lights flickered on, alarms ceased, and the outpost's main systems hummed steadily again. Alien scientists stepped out, trembling but amazed. You did what none of us could," one said. Jack shrugged. "I just fixed what's broken. That's all." Elyra looked at him and smiled. "It's never just about fixing things. You remind everyone that humans are something else entirely." The nebula of whispers faded behind them as they set a course for open space, and the galaxy was slowly beginning to notice. Ships repaired where no one dared to enter. Humans appearing where logic said survival was impossible. A species underestimated for centuries was now proving indispensable. Jack leaned back in his chair, tired but smiling faintly. "Next one," he asked. Elyra shook her head, a mix of admiration and worry. "You'll give the galaxy a heart attack if you keep this pace." Jack grinned, eyes sparkling. "Then let's make sure the galaxy never forgets humans can do the impossible." And as the stars stretched endlessly ahead, one thing was certain. Humanity's mark on the galaxy was just beginning, and with humans like Jack Kane at the helm, nothing would ever be the same. The stars outside stretched like rivers of silver light, and the Silent Hawk sailed through the void with quiet confidence. The galaxy, once indifferent to humanity, was now beginning to take notice. Ships whispered stories of the human who repaired the impossible, saved crews where no one dared enter, and faced dangers others would flee from. Elyra stood beside Jack, her eyes scanning the vast expanse. "Do you realize what you've done?" she asked softly. Jack wiped his hands on his jacket, his expression calm but proud. "I just did what had to be done. Fix the broken, help those in need. That's all." Elyra shook her head, a faint smile on her lips. "It's never just all that. You've changed the way every species in this sector will see humans forever. We underestimated your kind for centuries, and now the galaxy can't ignore you." Their next mission brought them to a derelict fleet near the outer rim, a cluster of ancient ships stranded in a collapsing nebula. Every Alarian crew had refused, saying the mission was suicidal. But Jack didn't hesitate. He coordinated the rescue with calm precision, Elyra observing in awe as he guided the ships through gravitational anomalies, stabilized failing cores, and brought stranded crews safely aboard. By the time the last ship powered up, word of humanity's feats had spread across multiple star systems. Empires that had laughed at the idea of humans now reconsidered. These beings were clever, daring, and unpredictable. Humans weren't just survivors, they were changemakers. Elyra turned to Jack as the rescued fleet followed them towards safe space. "You've done more than repair ships, Jack. You've repaired the galaxy's perception of humanity." Jack smiled faintly, his gaze drifting to the endless stars ahead. "Then let's make sure they never forget it." As they jumped into open space, the camera of the imagination would see fleets following, whispers of admiration spreading, and an entire galaxy beginning to recognize a simple truth. Humans, underestimated for so long, could achieve the impossible. Elyra's reflection settled in her heart. She had seen the courage, the stubborn ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit of humanity firsthand. And she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed forever, not because of superior technology, but because of a human who refused to give up, who fixed the impossible, and who reminded everyone that courage and cleverness were far stronger than fear. The Silent Hawk sailed onward, its engines humming like a heartbeat across the void, carrying humanity's mark to every star, every fleet, and every mind willing to notice. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a single truth echoed. Humans were no longer underestimated. Humans were unstoppable. Humans were the future.